Hello, this is Matt Coddington with Ville, and this is my review of the Verizon Motorola Droid X. This is a device very similar to the HTC EVO that is offered on Sprint. So now this big 4.3-inch screen offering that Verizon has, and it is quite a device. I'm going to be reviewing not just the Droid X by itself, but actually making some comparisons to the EVO that I own, so that you get an idea of the difference between them. So just a quick look at the hardware. Motorola chooses to put the connectors for both the USB and HDMI on the lower left-hand side of the device, and then the hardware buttons down at the bottom are a little bit different than on my EVO. The first button is actually the menu button, and then the home button, then a return, and then the search button. They also happen to be hardware buttons, so that actually when you do press on them, that they are a tactile hard button. Over on this side, this is actually the camera button, that red button there, and then you've got the volume rockers, and on the top then there is the power button and the microphone jack, and obviously the headphone jack as well. And that's it for any kind of openings on the device. On the back is the 8 megapixel HD camera, and I say HD because I'll talk about the video stuff later, but this truly is recording in HD quality. And there is a lack of front-facing camera on this device, so we'll talk a little bit more about that as well. The device from the side looks a little bit like a calculator. I've actually let a lot of people hold it, check it out, and it's one of the first things they say is that it feels very square, which is typical of Motorola and their styling, and this nub up at the top containing obviously the camera and some other components, and making the rest of the device quite thin. It's still, just from the side, it does look a little bit calculator-like. So some people were holding it and said, my gosh, it looks like it's a graphing calculator. But it still feels really good in the hand. It feels a little bit slippery when you're holding on to it, not horribly, but actually this part here is quite rubberized feeling that's on the top and the bottom of the front, and around this edges is a little bit more rubberized feeling, and on the bottom is more of a smooth kind of a plastic feel that still has a bit of a rubbery grip to it. But with it being square and that little bit of slippery feeling with those square edges on your hand, people have commented when they held it, they said, you know, I feel like I might drop this. But in the defense of this, that rarely do people actually use a device just totally naked per se, and they're going to put some sort of rubberized case or something that this will be held in, and so that won't really be an issue. Now, of course, if someone was to just use a holster and then they get the device out and use it naked, you're just going to have to use extra care to make sure that you do not mishandle it and have it slip, because with that squareness, it feels, and with it being a 4.3-inch screen, it's a pretty wide device, so on a smaller hand they might feel like they don't really have a good grip on it. But I really don't feel there's any issue with that. Before turning on the device, I'm going to show you the battery door. And earlier I struggled with this. It's quite a snug door, so you actually pull down, and now that I've done it once, then I see that it actually does a lot better. I actually had to get my fingernails on up in there and be able to pull this out, which you still need to use your fingernails just to kind of get a hold of the door. And it's actually a metal door, and then you see the battery. It's a 1500 milliamp battery, and then there's a pull tab for you to be able to pull the battery on up, and that's what's required to pull out the storage card, which is down in here as well. So you need to actually pull the battery out to access the storage card. They've provided a 16 gigabyte micro card from SanDisk, which is very nice. I know there's an 8 gig card that's included on the EVO, so that's a nice little plus. So actually the door is not as an issue once you get it open the first time, but the first time that I did go to open it, boy, I was like, how in the world do you get that thing open? So that's just a quick look at the camera door. And I did notice as well that it says that this door is use only that type battery, the BH5X battery with this door. I would say that what that's hinting to, and as well as since you've got this extra space, is that there could end up being a door that will cover for an extended battery, and then the majority of the device will be as thick as this going on down. And so yes, it'll make the device considerably thick, but considering that this is much thinner than a slide-out keyboard type device anyway, that if you had an extended battery on this with that door, it's really not too horribly thick, especially if for the exchange that you would get of having extreme long battery life. You can see, of course, I smudged the heck out of the screen handling it, but that's just the nature of the beast. Alright, here is a hardware comparison to the HTC EVO. So on the right is the Motorola Droid X, and so you can see the nub up at the top, this kind of, I'll call it the calculator kind of look, is thicker there, but the rest of the device is thinner than the EVO. If I get them both, you can see that by the time that the HTC has spread the components out along the device, made it a little bit thicker, and yet then this one's thin and then got the thickness up near the top. And then of course the EVO has a front-facing battery, a front-facing camera, sorry, that's up there above the Sprint logo, and again, no front-facing camera on the X. Hardware buttons, that they are physically hardware buttons down at the bottom of the X, and yet then they're just smooth buttons that require capacitive touch on the EVO. So a little difference there. Another difference, if you'll notice, and this is to me is an Achilles heel of Android devices and where they need to standardize some things, is that we've got the search button, we've got the back button, but now it's menu and home on the EVO there, and it's menu and home on the Droid X there. You don't know during this time of me playing with this device how many times I have hit menu, meaning home, and home, meaning menu, when I'm in an application, take myself back to the home screen and I really just wanted to bring up a menu, etc. So it is a bit frustrating, and you just develop a habit of the way of using a device, and it would be nice if all of the Android devices were to use that same scheme. But at this point, that is still just a free-for-all amongst manufacturers. Looking at the back, obviously, then both of them have a dual LED flash, and you see the speaker there for the HTC is up here, and the speaker is this slit down here on the Droid X. Obviously a kickstand on this one, no kickstand on the Droid X. So that's just a quick comparison of the hardware from the outside for both of these devices.